The day of the marriage alliance with the Marquis Manor. A young girl in a big red wedding dress stepped into the Marquis Manor before me. Only those who are not loved are as lowly as concubines. Even if you are the legal wife, the young Marquis will always have a place for me in his heart. Hearing this, I immediately laughed, turned around, and slapped the young Marquis across the face with my bare hand. Cherishing concubines and neglecting wives. Does the Marquis want the entire Marquis Manor to be executed? On the grand wedding day, Xianxia, wearing a fiery red wedding dress, stood provocatively in front of the Marquis Manor. So what if you're the legal wife? Your marriage alliance is just in name only. Qin Rushuang, remember this, the young Marquis will always have me in his heart, and can only hold me. At this moment, the grand wedding had been in preparation for a long time, and the front of the Marquis Manor was crowded with guests paying their respects. Among them were not only nobles and gentry, but also many high-ranking officials. Everyone looked at each other, but all surprisingly remained silent. There was no other reason. Everyone knew that the young Marquis, Li Liang, had a childhood sweetheart and confidant, and that was Xianxia. Xianxia was pampered and doted upon, and had moved into the Marquis Manor early on. Except for the title of legal wife, all her treatment was in line with that of a legal wife. The entire backyard of the Marquis Manor followed Xianxia's lead, and not a single person dared to defy her will. How could I, a madam from a fallen general's mansion, ever compare to Marquis Li Liang's beloved? Before long, Li Liang, dressed in festive groom's attire, arrived at the door surrounded by a crowd of people. He first gave me a cold glance, his expression very impatient. It was only when he saw Xianxia in her wedding dress that Li Liang's eyes suddenly lit up, but when he looked at me again, his face turned back into a scowl. The grand wedding is about to start. What are you still dawdling here for? I sneered and pointed at Xianxia, who was also wearing a red wedding dress. Marquis, this person has overstepped. Li Liang's face immediately froze, then turned unpleasant. Today is a joyous occasion. Why are you still arguing with a young girl? Really petty, can't even be presented on a stage. But I ignored him and asked Xianxia with a smile. Do you dare to say what you just said again? Xianxia, relying on Li Liang's favor, spoke loudly without hesitation. I said you, Qin Rushuang, are just a prop for a political marriage, and the Marquis's heart only has me. Before she could finish speaking, I raised my hand and slapped her across the face. Slap. I am the daughter of a military general. I usually train with swords, spears, clubs, and staffs. With one slap, half of Xianxia's face swelled up. Her originally pitiful, innocent face was immediately disfigured, bruised and purple, like half a steamed bun had been shoved into her mouth. Xianxia was so stunned by the beating, she clutched her face, eyes wide, unable to say a word. I sneered and, in return, delivered 5 consecutive slaps. The woman that young Marquis has in his heart. Joke's on you, I'm hitting the woman in his heart. Seeing that Xianxia was about to pass out from my slaps, Li Liang finally reacted and grabbed my hand. Xiao Rushuang, are you crazy? Have you had enough? Xianxia is just my cousin. She only said a few inappropriate words to defend me. Her cousin, how can you be so wild? You're simply unreasonable. Huh, so now that you've suffered a loss, you're suddenly cousins with no romantic feelings for each other. I sneered as Li Liang finished speaking and quickly walked up to him. Before he could react, I raised my hand and slapped him. Slap. With a big slap. His face immediately swelled up high too. I practice iron sand palm. When it comes to slapping, no one in the entire capital city can match me. I grabbed Li Liang by the collar and started cussing him out to his face. You've fallen from Grace Marquis Manor. People really think highly of yourselves. Huh. If it weren't for my father and brother fighting on the battlefield, exchanging their lives for military merits that need to be inherited by someone with a noble title, how would it be your turn? You don't learn anything good, just all that low class, underhanded scheming and groveling. If you want to sleep with cousin, just say it. No need to be secretive. You trash. This filthy Marquis Manor is really f-king disgusting. Under everyone's watchful eyes, I pulled out my mountain, splitting axe from the flower palanquin and swung it at the Marquis Manor's gate. Crack. Half of the gate was chopped into smithereens by me, and the guests and visitors were all trembling with fear. Li Liang, listen to me carefully. My father and brother have merits in hand, and they can choose any noble family, and I will be doted on like a treasure in their palms. It's your Marquis Manor that has fallen. You came begging me to marry into your family. Don't forget how the old Marquis knelt in the golden hall and begged. How can you be picky here? Get lost quickly. After smashing the Marquis Manor's gate, I swaggered in with 20 female soldiers I brought from the military camp. entering through the main entrance. Hurry up and discuss it. If you don't give me a result, tomorrow I'll file a complaint with the emperor and have your marquee manor confiscated. Once inside the bridal chamber, a group of female soldiers burst into laughter, chattering away. Rushwang, you were so fierce just now. You really let out the anger for all women in the world. Miss is so domineering. I let out a loud laugh, sat on the wedding bed with my legs crossed, and removed the red veil from my head. A girl who grew up on the battlefield isn't so pretentious, but having high combat power doesn't mean I'm a fool who can be played with as they please. The marquee manor allowing a cousin Xianxia, who was fostered at home, to jump out and cause trouble is, frankly, just a well-arranged show of dominance. Although their marquee manor is in decline, with its industries withered to almost nothing, they can't let go of their pretenses. Using the marriage to the daughter of a general who died in battle this time, they will surely look for an opportunity to put on a show of strength. Moreover, my father and brother accumulated a lot of fertile land and shops, which the marquee manor family has long coveted. If they can control me, the orphan daughter of the general's manor, then they can gorge themselves and eat up everything. Thinking of eating my leftovers is too naive. These pieces of trash who are whores but want to build arches of chastity, if I don't show them some color, they'll think I'm easy to bully. I dare say, this family has even thought about how to use my dowry. They're just waiting for Xianxia to subdue me, so they can completely clean me out. Their whole family's abacus beads were about to pop onto my face, yet they miscalculated that I, a woman, am not persecuted by feudal dregs at all. At worst, I'll tear up the marriage contract and go to the front line to swing a big saber. Can the emperor really force an orphan daughter from a family with military achievements to marry? Then his empire would probably become unstable. It's precisely because I calculated this that I dared to split the marquee manor's gate with my axe. I figured they wouldn't be able to do anything to me. Zhang, go scout out what's happening in the front yard. The female soldier took the order and went out, returning with news half a day later. The old marquis has come out and is currently appeasing the guests. The one handling the affairs of the inner chambers now is the old madam of the marquee manor. I guessed that no one had paid attention to me for so long because they were definitely preparing to come and demand an explanation. At this moment, there might even be people eavesdropping at my door. This is too easy. I'll lead a group of female soldiers to yell at the marquee manor. These wild girls all came out of the barracks, so their mouths are nothing like the well-bred young ladies from deep within the boudoirs, with the greetings of ancestors and grandmothers. Even the ancestors of the marquee manor would be cursed into transforming. After a long while, someone outside the door stumbled and ran out, tumbling and crawling to deliver a message, and only then did my anger subside by 3/10. So you can't stand it now. Where's that spirit of yours? Shamelessly sleeping with your cousin. Why don't you bring that out? It's basically asking for a scolding. I feel better after being yelled at. These people in the marquee manor are just cheap. The female soldiers burst out laughing, chatting happily about gossip, but after waiting and waiting, an hour passed and no one paid them any attention, clearly intending to ignore the issue. I know they in the marquee manor can't afford to lose face and are thinking of just getting through the grand wedding first. How could I possibly let them have their way? I led my people to the main hall and happened to see a new couple performing the ritual of bowing to heaven and earth. No need to guess. The woman wearing the red veil impersonating me is Xianxia. First bow to heaven and earth. Wait a moment. Seeing me charge in, everyone in the marquee manor shivered in unison. Li Liang's forehead was already sweating, and I, with a grab, tore off the veil from Xianxia's head. Looking at her panicked little face, you dare impersonate someone in a marriage bestowed by the emperor. That's a crime punishable by execution of the entire clan. Someone, help the marquis atone for his sins. The female soldiers swarmed forward, smashing everything related to the wedding ceremony, and the scene immediately descended into chaos. The old woman's eyes turned red with anxiety, and she kept pleading with me, holding my hand. Rushwang, this old woman and your Xiao family are old acquaintances. For my sake. All right. If you had treated me sincerely, you would have welcomed me into the household with mutual respect and a harmonious marriage. Then of course I have to give you face. Now your whole family is working together to scheme against me. Your face is just an insult. Smash. Li Liang, listen to me carefully. You have a quarter of an hour to bring your cousin and have them obediently kneel and kowtow in front of my door. 100 kowtows each. If there's one less, I'll go report to the emperor. The timer starts now. Whether you come or not is up to you. Li Liang's face turned red, but he was in the wrong first, and he was afraid I would really go all out. In less than half a quarter of an hour, A pair of cousins were already kneeling neatly outside my door. Xiao, are you really going to do things so ruthlessly? I sneered, looking at Li Liang and Su Qianqian, who had venomous resentment in her eyes. By his side, I'm ruthless. From the moment your gentle and lovely fairy-like cousin appeared in front of my bridal sedan chair, you yourselves had already done things ruthlessly. Now, start kowtowing. He kowtows. You count. Switch after you finish. You kowtow. He counts. The two of them had faces that turned green and then red, gritting their teeth and unable to make up their minds. I nodded to the female soldier beside me. Bring out my father and brother's iron certificate. And if this pair of miss even one kowtow, we'll go to the Golden Hall. Then, outside the door of the new bridal chamber for the grand wedding, the sound of crisp kowtows and the venomous counting of men and women could be heard. After finishing the kowtows, a stack of silver notes was thrown in Su Qianqian's face. Good girl, this is a tip. Now show your gratitude. Su Qianqian was so ashamed and angry she felt like dying. Her eyes rolled back, and she completely fainted. The Marquis Manor completely became the laughingstock of the capital city. On the day of the grand wedding, the family, using the fact that the other party was an orphan girl, ganged up to give her a show of force. Unexpectedly, I easily counter-attacked, and the boomerang was fiercely shoved back into their own mouths. That feeling was more uncomfortable than forcing them to eat their own excrement. But I didn't consider the feelings of the Marquis Manor at all, and continued to happily savor my pastries. In the evening of the grand wedding day, Li Liang, reeking of alcohol, arrived at the door of the bridal chamber, but he was blocked by two female soldiers holding cleavers. Xiao, what do you mean? I am your husband. I heard Li Liang shouting outside the door from inside the room, so I sneered and pushed open the window. Say you're fat, and you really start puffing up. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself properly? Where did you get the confidence to think you could climb into my bed? Li Liang's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. Angrily, he turned to leave but was stopped by someone holding a knife. Stand under the eaves. You can only leave when the lady says so. Li Liang was completely enraged, but was forced to kneel by the door with his head held down by two female soldiers. Xiao, what do you really want? I glanced at him lazily and muttered to myself. The emperor bestowed the marriage, so there will definitely be supervision of the truth. If the groom sleeps in the guest room on the first night, it will definitely arouse suspicion. Don't look at me like that. I have no interest in a white chicken like you. Turn your head away. Seeing your face makes me a little sick. It wasn't until after the time it takes to brew a cup of tea that I clapped my hands, and the female soldiers let Li Liang go. He cursed as he walked, gritting his teeth. Crazy woman. Xiao, you are a crazy woman. But one sentence from me made him completely spit blood. Record in the daily register. Young Marquis Li Liang had a night of dragon and phoenix presenting auspiciousness on his wedding night. The time it takes to brew a cup of tea. The next day, the capital city was in an uproar. Everyone knew that the young Marquis was impotent. He excitedly entered the bridal chamber on his wedding night and came out after the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. Some gossips started to make up stories. Hey, have you heard? That Miss Xiao from the general's mansion will probably have to live as a widow from now on. The young Marquis is impotent. I heard that the young lady is still a virgin after a month of marriage. Li Liang was so angry that he vomited blood, unable to defend himself. Spreading rumors has never been the exclusive weapon of men. Having been in many battles, I naturally know how to use public opinion. So from that day on, visitors to the Marquis Manor changed their gift lists. What they sent were all tonics for strengthening the kidneys. Our young Marquis isn't capable. He really needs to be replenished. Seeing that I had gained a firm foothold in the Marquis Manor, Su Qianqian became anxious. She first used her old connections to trip me up a few times, and then led all the servants in the manor to ostracize me. This petty behavior is laughable, like an adult watching a cub playing house. That afternoon, I gathered all the servants in the manor and announced their punishments in public. You few, with dirty hands and feet, you'll be sold to the slave catchers to do hard labor. You few, gossiping about the matriarch behind her back, you'll be sold to poor families. And you few, putting unclean things into my food, you will be sold to brothels to serve customers. The servants were all stunned, unable to believe I was so decisive and ruthless. Madam, we dare not do it again. Spare us this time. Su Qianqian's face looked as bad as if she had eaten something terrible, and she clenched her small fists tightly. However, the more she was like this, the more I found it amusing. And visitors who stay in other people's homes, do you really think you're the host? You all remember, recognize, and understand clearly who the master of this house is. Don't let any stray cats or dogs, any clowns, jump out and pretend to be people. Su Qianqian's eyes turned red with anger, and with a trembling voice, she ran to find Li Liang to cry to him. However, she was destined to be a turtle with a pot lid on its back, a waste of effort. The entire Marquis manor relies on my dowry to survive. How dare you offend the big benefactor now? Li Liang found me, with an embarrassed smile on his face. Rushuang, why don't you give the money you brought to mother to keep? She is better at managing the household. I sneered and retorted on the spot. Better at managing the household, and managed the Marquis manor like dog shit. Before I came, you probably had to calculate for a long time just to eat an egg, right? Li Liang was so ashamed by my scolding that he couldn't raise his head and retreated dejectedly. But even so, a sinking ship still has 3 caddies of nails. Su Qianqian's 18th birthday is coming soon, and the Marquis manor still squeezed out money to prepare a grand celebration. On the day of the ceremony, Su Qianqian happily put on a pink dress, chirping like a canary. Brother Li Liang, don't I look beautiful? That coquettish voice was like hot urine from a diabetic, sickeningly sweet. Li Liang was also beaming, his face like a blooming rotten chrysanthemum. Qianqian is the most beautiful. You are the absolute star today. Halfway through the ceremony, Li Liang ordered gifts to be presented. It was a gold hairpin of exceptional design, a regulation that only the official wife of the Marquis manor was qualified to wear. All the guests in the hall were stealing glances at me, the mockery in their eyes evident. See, I told you this Xiao Rushuang isn't favored at all. The young Marquis is openly giving her a hard time. What can she do about it? Heh. I've long heard that this woman doesn't abide by rules and regulations. She should be treated like this. Su Qianqian was flattered and overwhelmed, her smugness evident on her face. She looked at me provocatively, and boldly placed the main wife's gold hairpin on her head. Immediately after, Su Qianqian, acting like she was the victim while having gained an advantage, spoke to me in front of everyone. Brother gave me a gold hairpin, so what gift do you, sister-in-law, have for me? Even a blind person could see the provocation in her words, and the guests were eagerly waiting to see the show. I simply smiled slightly and ordered a tray to be brought over. How could I not prepare a gift? This was specially prepared for you, Qianqian. I put a lot of thought into this. You should remember to be grateful. Su Qianqian immediately became interested. She opened the tray, only to find a letter, but as she tore open the letter, her face instantly turned as pale as paper. Send me to marry as a peace offering. I burst into laughter, smiling as I loudly announced to the stunned crowd, yes, after my persistent recommendation, His Majesty has agreed to send our Miss Qianqian to the frontier to marry as a peace offering. Li Liang almost exploded on the spot, his eyeballs about to pop out. Xiao Rushuang, what have you done? Su Qianqian is clearly, I stared at him with a cold smile, waiting for him to finish his sentence, is clearly what? My dear husband, could this cousin be a kept woman you have at home? You're definitely not that kind of person, otherwise you'd be too filthy, shameless, brazen, and against all principles. In that case, could you still be called a person? That would simply be an animal. If His Majesty finds out, your noble title will be gone. The faces of the entire Marquis manor family changed like a kaleidoscope from my scolding, turning blue then red, and finally purple. Su Qianqian let out a scream and frantically tore the letter to shreds. No, I don't want to go to the frontier to marry as a peace offering. Brother Li Liang saved me. However, no matter how much she cried and fussed, what awaited her was an imperial edict. The imperial edict of bestowal of marriage is not a letter I wrote that can be torn up as I please. I looked at Su Qianqian, who had collapsed on the ground, and patiently comforted her. Although the frontier is harsh and cold, you are after all a noble lady sent for a political marriage. Those nomads don't bathe for decades, and the fleas on their bodies could be scraped off and fried into a dish. At that time, you will be one of over 100 princesses, and you might even be rewarded to soldiers as a prize. As I spoke, Su Qianqian's face completely broke down. She beat Li Liang like crazy, crying a rain of tears. Brother, save me, if you can't, then rebel. Don't send me to a place where even livestock wouldn't go. Li Liang's expression changed completely at her words. He hastily knocked his cousin unconscious with a palm strike and stuffed her into the marriage carriage. Qianqian is so happy she's gone mad and is talking nonsense. Everyone please don't take it to heart. I watched the heartless Li Liang wipe away cold sweat, and a slight cold smile formed in my heart. When it comes to his own interests, any cousin is bullshit. Nothing is more important than his own prosperity and wealth. Li Liang was completely dejected. After Su Qianqian was sent to the frontier, I heard she was not doing well. Those Tubo princes all had hundreds of consorts. so it was unlikely Su Qianqian would be favored. What's more, the news that came back said that the royal family outside the Great Wall found that the girl sent was a broken melon, not a virgin. Although the Tubo people didn't care, they still felt insulted. Su Qianqian was thrown into the big camp to relieve the soldiers' stress. When Li Liang got the news, he got drunk in a brothel. From then on, he slept with prostitutes every day, making brothels his home. Before long, he contracted venereal disease and broke out in sores all over his body. That day, the servants of the brothel held their noses and carried the young Marquis of the Marquis Manor back, throwing him onto the doorstep on a soft bed. By then, Li Liang's illness had flared up. With sores on his face and his entire nose rotted away, he mumbled and begged to see me, but received a cold response. Carry him in and put him in the woodshed. Just give him a bowl of porridge every day. The old Marquis and old Madam of the Marquis Manor both came to blame me for treating their son this way, and I covered my mouth and suddenly gagged nauseously. The doctor said I'm pregnant, so I won't be serving the young Marquis anymore. The whole family was suddenly delighted and served me like an empress. Only Li Liang in the woodshed knew that we had never consummated our marriage before. On the day he was dying, I came to see him for the last time with a smile. Little Marquis, the woman you love most can't stand the 100,000 troops of the barbarians in the frontier and has passed away. You go down and accompany her now. That's the woman you cherish most. Li Liang angrily pointed at my nose and finally squeezed out 2 words after a while. Poisonous. Woman. I smiled as I watched him die with his eyes wide open, gently stroking my swollen belly. My dear Marquis, your entire Marquis Manor planned to take advantage of the family's demise. Who knew I would take advantage of your family's demise instead? After burning Li Liang, I scattered his ashes. What Su Qianqian said was right. I never fight for whether you have me in your heart, because I simply don't care. Next, let's listen to another story. I was born with a phoenix destiny, destined to ascend to the Empress's position. On my 18th birthday, Rongyu embraced another woman and said he wanted to break off the engagement with me. I smiled and agreed. Okay, he didn't want to be emperor, so someone else would do it. But later, he entered the manor again. His eyes reddened as he begged me. Let's not break up. Okay, let's not call off the engagement. When Rongyu brought Li Xiaoxiao to find me, I was making wine at Forget Worry Tower. Inhahua, Xiaoxiao is the woman I love most in this life. And I, the third prince, want to break off the engagement with you. My hand, holding the wine goblet, paused, and I looked up with a slight smile. Are you sure, third prince? Sure. No regrets. No regrets. Li Xiaoxiao, hiding behind Rongyu, spoke timidly. Princess Hihua, please don't blame me. The third prince is just speaking out of anger. Xiaoxiao is of humble origin and would never dare to have improper thoughts. Xiaoxiao, don't be afraid. Rongyu cut off Li Xiaoxiao, put his arm around her waist, his eyes full of gentle care. This prince will not let her hurt you. Inhihua, this prince is not here to discuss with you today whether you want to break off this marriage or not. You must. Okay, I responded casually. Then let's break it off. Having agreed to break off the engagement with Rongyu, I naturally couldn't go back on my word. Early the next morning, I got into the carriage and prepared to enter the palace to see the emperor. As soon as I entered the palace gates, I was invited to have tea by the palace servants of Biyun Palace, who had been waiting there early. As soon as Consort Shu saw me, she began to apologize to me on behalf of her son. The third one is a scoundrel. Hihua, please don't be angry with him. This mother concubine has already beaten him and punished him to reflect in his residence. When the duke returns triumphantly to the capital in a few days, this mother concubine will personally take him to apologize to the duke. Concubine Shu, you are too kind. I smiled and curtsied. They say it's better to tear down 10 temples than to break up a marriage. I don't want to be the one to break up a loving couple. The third prince and Miss Xiaoxiao from Minister Li's family are deeply in love. Why don't we just call off this marriage? I never intended to marry Rongyu in the first place. It was only because concubine Shu was favored by the emperor, and Rongyu's status was elevated by his mother. The emperor's inclination towards him for the position of crown prince was strengthened. Moreover, worried about concubine Shu's family's weak influence, they wanted to rely on my duke's mansion's military power to support him. Besides that, it was also because of a comment. That was a year ago, right after I returned to the capital from the northern frontier. The former imperial preceptor, upon seeing me while on his deathbed, his eyes immediately widened. After his excitement, he only managed to utter 4 words before passing away peacefully, born with the fate of a phoenix. Only the emperor, who was present at the time, my father who escorted me back to the capital, and myself knew about this matter. However, It seems concubine Shu has also found out by now. She kept me at the Biyun Palace for tea, drinking pot after pot, staring at me without blinking, afraid that if she wasn't careful, I would run off to the emperor to break off the engagement. But concubine Shu never expected that her scoundrel son would sneak into the palace. Rongyu knelt in the hall of diligent governance, repeatedly saying he wanted to break off the engagement and marry someone else. His Majesty was furious and kicked him on the spot. By the time Biyun Palace got the news, the imperial edict to break off the engagement had already been issued. Upon hearing this, concubine Shu's eyes went black, and she fainted instantly. With the matter of breaking off the engagement concluded, I took my maid Xinger and went to Wangtai Mountain to play for several days. I came with enthusiasm and left satisfied. However, the pleasant mood of several days shattered abruptly the moment I stepped through the city gates, because during the few days I was seeing no visitors. The rumors in the capital about me became increasingly outrageous. It had reached the point where I was so heartbroken from the broken engagement that I was on the verge of seeking death. Hearing it truly made my teeth ache. What day is it today? I pondered how to clear my name. Xinger replied, according to the suicide version, today is your 7th day mourning period. To prove I was still alive, I picked a recent invitation and went to the banquet. I grew up in the northern frontier since I was young, and although I had returned to the capital for a year, I had never eaten at anyone's house. Therefore, when the noble ladies in the garden saw me, their expressions were quite terrified. Well, there was no need to be so terrified, right? Didn't the 7th day mourning period already pass? Your humble subject's daughter greets Princess Hahua. One person reacted and bowed to me, and the rest of the crowd followed suit. I waved my hand, signaling them to rise. Seeing that my goal was achieved, I picked a deserted corner for myself, teased a parrot hanging nearby, and then pretended to sleep on the swing set. Xinger fanned me from the side. I have to say, climbing a mountain really drains your energy. Just as I was groggily about to fall asleep, the sounds of several women giggling got closer and closer. Mixed in were a few words about me. If you guys are talking smack about me, then I won't be sleepy anymore. I perked up my ears to listen. One person said, a woman raised in the wilderness truly has no manners. She showed her face once and then disappeared. Another person chimed in, who knows, maybe she went off to some place of ill repute again. No wonder the third prince was so insistent on breaking off the engagement. The first person said again, a woman who's been dumped by royalty, what good marriage can she hope for? Now all she has is the title of county princess, granted by her father's influence, yet she's so arrogant. Her voice paused, then she suddenly chuckled, speaking in a sarcastic tone. Xiao, why aren't you saying anything? The third prince broke off his engagement with the county princess to marry you. Now you're the most envied woman in the capital. Perhaps soon you'll be the crown princess. Sister Haiyan, please don't speak nonsense. Li Xiao quickly cut her off. And I was waiting for this very sentence. Walking around the swing set, I gracefully emerged. The three women were greatly startled to see me. Xinger said in a low voice, that's the second daughter of Minister Zhou Haiyan. I dug in my ear and asked with a smile, who said the part about crown princess? There was a moment of silence. Zhou Haiyan, trying to appear calm, said, no, I didn't say it. Your Highness, you must have misheard. Oh, really? Xinger took down the parrot hanging nearby, and I played with it for a bit. This little guy is very smart. Listen if you don't believe me. Xiao, why aren't you talking? I had just started when the parrot immediately repeated that whole passage perfectly. Zhou Haiyan's face immediately turned ashen, trembling like a sieve. She suddenly knelt on the ground. Your Highness, please spare me. I shook my head and sighed. Haiyan, you really need to wise up. The other two also knelt before me together. They're just frogs in a well, unable to even understand the sky above their heads. Yet they try to pull others into the well to tread on them. Utterly foolish. Even if they were to enter the inner court they so desperately desired in the future, they would still be the ones being schemed against. Today, I'll be a good person and teach them for free this once. To talk about state affairs without authorization. Xinger, slap her face. Yes, Your Highness. Xinger grew up with me in the military camp, fighting and struggling. Her skills are top-notch, and she's incredibly strong. With 3 slaps, their faces immediately swelled up. The crying gradually attracted many noble ladies. Seeing me standing and them kneeling, they naturally assumed I was bullying the weak with my power. I couldn't be bothered with their thoughts, so I turned to leave with Xinger. A clear male voice came from behind. Princess Hihua, that is my parrot. Shielding myself from the sun with my fan, I turned my face, and my gaze fell upon the striking young man in the purple robe amidst the crowd. His eyes, like obsidian, were captivating. I recognized this person. He was the emperor's fifth son, Rongchang. So it's the fifth prince. News of me and Rongchang leaving the banquet together spread like wildfire. Ever since I returned to the capital a year ago, rumors about me have been constant. Most of the time, I ignore them. Except for the last time they spread rumors about my 7th day memorial. When Xinger told me about it, I just treated it as a joke. Unexpectedly, some people actually believed it. Having slept too much during the day, I had some insomnia at night. After tossing and turning for half an hour, I gradually felt sleepy. Just then, a gust of night wind blew in. I suddenly opened my eyes. I rolled over and grabbed the dark figure by the window. Lighting a lamp, I saw it was Rongyu. It's been over a month since we broke off our engagement. The only reason I can think of for him sneaking into my house late at night is that he pulled the donkey's tail while it was drinking, and in the process of getting kicked by the donkey, some water got into his brain. I pressed my throbbing temples and said, "Third prince, sneaking into my chambers late at night, you'd better give me a reasonable explanation. What did you do at the banquet the other day?" His first words were an accusation. The banquet. I looked at Rongyu, a smile playing on my lips. "So, third prince, you've come to stand up for Li Xiaoxiao." His angry expression froze. Then he said, "Yes, that's right. How dare you have a maid insult Xiaoxiao, and you're still entangled with Rongchang. No wonder you agreed to break off our engagement so readily. You've been secretly carrying on behind my back. Have you had an imperial physician check your brain?" After saying that, I was about to tell Xinger to drag this guy out, but Rongyu suddenly lunged forward and hugged me, his voice tinged with a hint of grievance. "You betrayed me, and you're scolding me." Only then did I notice the smell of alcohol on him. "Inhahua, do you even have a heart?" Only then did I start to examine Rongyu seriously. Frankly speaking, he's quite good looking. Hahua, he's just a little disobedient. I don't like disobedient men. When his lips were an inch away from mine, I twisted his wrist and flipped him onto the ground. Barefoot, I stepped on his chest, the night wind rushing in, billowing my white gauze dress. "Your Highness, you might have forgotten, we're already broken up." He cupped my ankle, the corners of his eyes red. "Let's not break up. Let's not break up anymore, okay?" News of the third prince being thrown out of the duke's mansion in the middle of the night spread like wildfire. Rongyu seemed unfazed. After sobering up, he spent all day trying to find ways to linger around me. When I saw Li Xiaoxiao again at the polo match, she had lost quite a bit of weight. Wearing a veiled hat, she huddled behind the bustling crowd, no longer possessing her former beauty and charm. Even so, there were still idle noblewomen who stirred up trouble, pushing through the crowd just to step forward and utter a few contemptuous remarks. "Oh, isn't this the Miss Xiaoxiao who considers herself the prince's consort? Why are you hiding here instead of accompanying the third prince?" Another person chuckled, covering her mouth, her eyes filled with glee and contempt. "The third prince went to buy lotus paste cakes from Zhongmingju for Princess Hahua, so naturally he has no time to accompany Miss Xiaoxiao." Xinger frowned. Her again. It was then that I remembered. It was Zhou Haiyan, after all. Seems like she still hasn't learned her lesson. Li Xiaoxiao's hands clasped in front of her trembled slightly. She turned to leave, but someone blocked her way. The curtain was pulled down by Zhou Haiyan. She put on a concerned look. "Xiaoxiao, I heard from my mother that your family is looking for a husband for you. Is that true? Does the third prince really not want you anymore? Not even as a concubine?" Because of Rongyu, she had suffered ridicule and mockery during this period. Although Li Xiaoxiao's face was pale, she still had a backbone. "I won't be a concubine." "What's wrong with being a concubine? Like your aunt, find someone with some power, and have a daughter as beautiful as you, maybe better than you, and you might really climb to a noble person." Ha ha ha. 3 or 5 noble ladies burst into laughter. It was very harsh. I came out from behind the pavilion, smiling and said, "If being a concubine is so good, then this county princess will fulfill Miss Zhou's wish." The laughter stopped abruptly. The smile also cracked on Zhou Haiyan's face. Your subject's daughter pays respects to Princess Hahua. Whose concubine do you want to be? Say it, and this county princess will help you with all her might." Your Highness is joking. Your subject is the legitimate daughter of the family. How can I be a concubine?" Her face was full of humiliation. "You keep talking about concubines and legitimate wives, as if you know more than a contemporary great scholar who has read the classics of etiquette. Why don't you come with me to the palace and show off your talents in front of His Majesty, instead of burying them in the inner chambers?" Zhou Haiyan's face turned pale, and she knelt down with a plop. All the noble ladies behind her held their breath, and not a single one dared to make a sound. Speaking of which, His Majesty today is also a son born to a concubine. He struggled to survive in the deep palace since childhood, and has experienced countless open attacks and hidden arrows, conspiracies and schemes. He knows the difficulties of being born to a concubine, and doesn't want Rongyu to suffer the same fate. Therefore, he has shown great favoritism towards consort Shu and her son. Just then, Rongyu came looking for them. He was carrying 2 packets of lotus seed paste cake. What's going on? When his gaze fell on Li Xiaoxiao beside them, his expression paused, and he finally withdrew it as if nothing had happened. Nothing. Miss Zhou wanted to eat lotus seed paste cake and was begging me for it. Xing'er took the pastries, helped Zhou Haiyan to sit down, and placed the lotus seed paste cake in front of her. Eat, I said. She picked up a piece with trembling hands and put it into her mouth. I found a shady spot and watched with great interest, until both packets of pastries were gone. Not a crumb left. Rongyu quite distastefully said, eating so much. No wonder you're a bit fat. Zhou Haiyan felt so embarrassed she wanted to cry, but she could only tightly close her mouth, cover her stomach, and not dare to make a sound. Li Xiaoxiao bowed to me and then left. From beginning to end, she didn't glance at Rongyu. He hua. The pastries have all been eaten by others. I'll go buy some more. I interrupted him. What exactly is going on between you two? His eyes flickered a few times. It's nothing. It's just that I was injured while hunting outside the city once, and Li Xiaoxiao saved me, applying medicine and bandaging my wounds for me. At that time, I was sulking because you went to Wuyou Tower, and by chance, I met someone who was always obedient, so I thought I had fallen for her. It was a moment of confusion that made me break off your engagement, but when I heard that you and that kid Rong Cheng were going in and out together, I was so jealous I almost went crazy. He hua. I truly love you. Li Xiaoxiao was just a mistake I made in a moment of confusion, a mistake that any man could make. Please forgive me. Okay. I almost burst out laughing. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the crowd. She jumped into the river. A girl jumped into the river. Whose daughter? It seems to be Minister Li's daughter. Rongyu froze in place. I suddenly shook off his hand and spoke sternly. Have you ever thought that your momentary lapse in judgment, your momentary confusion, could ruin a woman's entire life? Xing'er, save her. It cost me 1,000-year-old ginseng to keep Li Xiaoxiao alive. The first moment she opened her eyes, she was crying and apologizing to me. She said she shouldn't have been so foolish, knowing that Rongyu was engaged to me, yet still indulging her base desires. She said she shouldn't have gone with Rongyu to break off the engagement with me, knowing how much breaking off an engagement would hurt a woman. She said she shouldn't have stood by silently while others maliciously slandered me at the banquet. Alright, if you cry any more, you'll drown yourself. I don't have a second ginseng to save you here. Li Xiaoxiao stopped crying. Is that scoundrel Rongyu worth you giving up your life? She shook her head, her eyes filled with despair. My family has already arranged a marriage for me, but the groom is a widower about my father's age. My legitimate mother covets the generous betrothal gifts, and she wants to marry me off tomorrow. What if you refuse to marry? I frowned. If I don't marry, my aunt will be beaten to death by my father. As she spoke, she wiped away her tears, got out of bed, and bowed to me again. Thank you, County Princess, for saving my life. If I had really died, I fear it would have caused my aunt to not be able to live either. She already lives a difficult life for me, and I cannot drag her down further. If there is a tomorrow, I will surely repay the County Princess's great kindness. Before leaving, Li Xiaoxiao wrote a prescription for me, a prescription for sleep. Perhaps the County Princess could try it, without even touching my pulse. You can prescribe medicine, Dr. Li. I am indeed disrespectful. She forced a smile. After watching Li Xiaoxiao leave, I sent Xing'er to deliver a letter to the 5th Prince's mansion. The next morning, Rong Cheng appeared at the Li family's gate as promised. He was still holding a thick volume of etiquette literature. He smiled gently. County Princess Hihua, are you also here to learn from Minister Li? Naturally, one lives and learns. 5th Prince, please. 2/4 of an hour later, the news that the 5th Prince was scared out of the Li mansion quickly spread. When someone curiously asked me about it, I could only tell them the truth. Minister Li, he beat his concubine, and Madame Li joined in the beating too. They were all bloody and mangled, and those illegitimate children. Oh my, it was so tragic. The news reached the palace, and the emperor flew into a rage. Without even having time for lunch, he issued an edict to dismiss Minister Li from his post. The eunuch delivering the imperial decree also conveyed His Majesty's oral command. Concubines who have suffered beatings and abuse can choose to regain their freedom according to their own will, and so can their children, with a single command. Except for Madame Li, who couldn't run, all the other concubines fled with their children and wealth. Li Xiaoxiao came with her mother to thank me. Xing'er quickly stepped forward to stop them from kneeling. "Are you leaving?" I asked. "Yes. Didn't you say that if there was a tomorrow, you would repay my great kindness?" "My lady, I've opened a new clinic, and I happen to need a resident doctor. But I'm a woman." "So what if you're a woman? Do women's herbal medicines taste worse than men's? Or are women's prescriptions harder to read than men's?" "Li Xiaoxiao, if you think your medical skills are inferior to men's, then leave. This county princess does not keep mediocre talents." "No, my medical skills are not inferior to theirs." I smiled. "Your tone reminds me of that day when you told Zhou Haiyan you wouldn't be a concubine. Well, you do have some spirit." "Xing'er, take Dr. Li to get familiar with the clinic." "Yes, my lady." Sparkling lights also lit up in Li Xiaoxiao's eyes. I prepared a gift and went to the 5th prince's mansion to thank Rongchang. He smiled and shook his head, refusing. In this world, women already live tough lives. Originally, men and women should be the same. Hearing this, my heart felt a faint warmth. His Majesty used this to dismiss Minister Li, thinking of his own status as born of a concubine, whereas Rongchang truly understood the suffering of women. The next time I saw Zhou Haiyan was at the treasure pavilion. Just as Rongchang and I stepped through the door, we saw her wielding a long whip with great vigor. Yet, she couldn't smash a single porcelain vase. They all say the treasure pavilion has marked prices. You shop assistant, trying to extort more when you have 2 buyers. "Did you ask my whip first?" "I really didn't expect her to have this skill," Xing'er whispered. According to unofficial news, last month after the 3rd prince personally watched her eat 2 boxes of lotus seed paste at the polo field, Miss Zhou was disheartened and completely gave up her thoughts of the 3rd prince. Recently, she's been eating and practicing martial arts, completely discarding the demure manner she learned for the 3rd prince. She whips any man who comments on women's figures or looks, and as a result, she's become sturdier. This is great. Look at that shop assistant over there, scared like a little chick. In the future, she won't be bullied by men relying on their natural strength advantage. With Miss Zhou's fists, this servant thinks she can knock out the 2 across from her. "You should be worried about that shop assistant," I hissed. But what's baffling is where Rong Yu gets such great charm. One by one, they all seem dazed. Look at Zhou Haiyan now. How did she previously suppress her nature with her exceptional will, holding her voice artificially all day, stirring up trouble, being jealous and petty? "That's right," Rongchang chimed in with a smile. "My looks aren't worse than 3rd brothers, are they?" "He hua." I hooked his palm. A man's appearance is important, but more important is obedience. Naturally, I always obey he hua. "Good boy." While we were chatting, Zhou Haiyan saw me and instinctively tried to sneak away. She held a long whip in one hand and reflexively covered her mouth with the other, inching her way out. I smilingly stepped on the end of her whip. "Why are you leaving as soon as you see this county princess?" Zhou Haiyan had no choice but to turn around, lowering her head. "See, county princess, please forgive me. It was the shop assistant who was improper. You were defending your legitimate interests. What crime is that?" She didn't react for a moment, scratching her head. "County princess, you don't hate me." When I think about the stupid things I've done for men before, I can't help but hate myself. Almost got Xiaoxiao killed. Doesn't everyone go a little crazy for love sometimes? I stood on tiptoe and patted her shoulder. "Li Xiaoxiao wasn't entirely doing it because of you. This is a long story. I won't go into it now. Tell me what you've been eating lately. How come you're so much taller than me?" "Just eating whatever." "Don't just eat whatever. Come on. I'll treat you to lotus seed paste cake." Zhou Haiyan threw up with a wah. Her vomiting was sudden and unexpected. It dawned on me belatedly. Is it that potent?" Rongchang became even more clingy with me, because my father was about to return victorious. He would surely fly into a rage upon hearing that Rongyu had broken off my engagement. To appease my father, His Majesty would inevitably have to select another prince from the royal family for me, and Rongchang was the most age-appropriate one. "Hahua." Rongchang embraced me from behind. "Don't come over for the next few days. Don't you like me anymore?" His tone carried a hint of grievance. I turned my head. "Of course, I like you." He sighed, seemingly resigned to fate, and finally looked at me with serious eyes, asking word by word, "Hahua will choose me, won't she?" My movements paused, and I raised my eyes to meet his gaze. Looking into the depths of his eyes, The tenderness within seemed enough to drown a person, like a vow between lovers, but we both know, that wasn't a vow between lovers. At most it was a pact between companions. 5 days later, my father returned victoriously. His Majesty held a night banquet at Yuqingpan to celebrate my father's triumph. After the banquet, my father and I were summoned to the Hall of Diligent Governance. The next day at dawn, the imperial edict of marriage and the decree for establishing the heir were issued together. The crown princess is me, but the crown prince is Rongyu. My eyes darkened, my father coughed softly, and I snapped back to reality. This subject bows to receive the edict, holding the imperial yellow scroll. I returned to my room and saw no one. Even Rongyu, who came excitedly, was turned away by Xinger, who said I was ill. The prince most favored by his majesty is, after all, Rongyu. Even though he foolishly broke off my engagement, his majesty is still willing to give him another chance. But this completely disrupted my plans. If I want to fulfill my heart's desire, the crown prince absolutely cannot be Rongyu. Confused thoughts churned in my mind. After an unknown amount of time, I gradually felt sleepy. In a daze, I dreamed of Rongchang. Suddenly, I felt a dull pressure in my chest. My sleepiness vanished, and when I opened my eyes, I actually saw him. Rongchang's eyes were red at the corners, and his eyes held a fierce glint mixed with grievance. Inhahua, you really didn't choose me. As soon as I opened my mouth, I heard my voice was terribly hoarse. He reacted faster than me, raised his hand to touch my forehead, and then frowned. Are you sick? I covered his cool hand, not letting him move it away, and my eyelids grew heavy. You don't even know you're sick. He seemed even angrier. In front of me, he always looked gentle and virtuous, so he could get angry too. By the time my fever broke, it was already the evening of the next day. Father sat by the bedside. The doctor said you were overly worried. As a father, I don't know what my daughter is worried about all day. Xingxing, can you tell Dad? But I didn't know where to start. Xingxing, what exactly do you want to do? What I want to do? I want to change the status and situation where women can only rely on men to survive. I want women to be able to show their faces, enter officialdom, and do business. I want them to walk freely in this world without restraint. I want to realize the world of gender equality that Mother spoke of. Mother said she had seen it. I also want to see it. I want to be the empress. You will. My Xingxing is already the crown princess. He affectionately stroked my head. Be an empress whom even the emperor must listen to and believe in. My father's expression shifted slightly. Silence lingered for a long time. So this is the reason you're unwilling to marry the third prince? Yes, I answered calmly. Although concubine Shu's maternal family is not prominent, they have been developing in secret in recent years, accumulating power to help Rongyu ascend the throne. Under the guise of the third prince, they have committed countless acts of forceful seizure. As His Majesty is still alive, they are still somewhat apprehensive. If Rongyu were to ascend the throne one day, his ambition would surely be fully revealed. With such a maternal clan, how could Rongyu wholeheartedly listen to and believe in me? Even if he has some affection for me now, who knows how long this affection will last? Therefore, your choice is the fifth prince. Yes, I didn't hesitate. The empress has no children. Rongchang's birth mother was originally a palace made by the empress's side, a tool the empress used to divert concubine Shu's favor. Seeing that diverting favor was not working, she then abandoned this mother and son. His birth mother died early, and to survive, Rongchang requested to join the army for training at the age of 13. Inside the Vermilion High Walls, it was far more dangerous than the clash of swords on the battlefield. The first time I met him was during the battle when the Tujue invaded the northern border. The enemy somehow learned of his identity as the crown prince and tried every means to capture him, threatening his life to force his father to retreat his army 100 miles. This retreat meant the loss of the city gates and the country's territory. No retreat. This shout was uttered by Rongchang himself. Seeing this, the Turkic general directly gagged him and dragged him along, bound behind a horse, watching the winding bloodstains. The enemy army was immensely pleased, waving flags in celebration. I hid on the city wall, drew my bow, and shot, hitting the general's heart directly. A commotion erupted, and Rongchang was able to survive. After his wounds healed, he was brought back to the capital. In total, I only spent a few days with him. For several years after, I didn't think of him for a moment, but at that banquet, I recognized Rongchang at a glance. Father, what exactly did His Majesty say to you in the Hall of Diligent Governance? I was not summoned to the hall during that evening's audience. My father gave a wry smile. His Majesty wants me to choose a husband for you, and in his words, he only gave me the third prince as a choice. As expected, A father's favoritism towards a child sometimes has no reason at all. Rongyu was not the most outstanding, nor necessarily the most suitable for that position, but he received a rare bit of genuine affection from the emperor. Even though the emperor's genuine affection went against my vision, I am not one to back down either. What about being born with a phoenix destiny? It's all bullshit. After careful planning, how can it be ruined by Rongyu? If I want to succeed, no one can stop me. Since His Majesty cannot make the decision to abandon, then I will help him. I had Xinger temporarily put aside business dealings in various trades and focus on watching Rongyu's maternal grandfather, the Wu family, for 10 consecutive days. No unusual activity was found. On the morning of the 11th day, Rongchang sent a secret letter. Scanning through it at a glance, anger almost broke through my chest. The Wu family is actually engaged in the business of kidnapping young girls, Xinger said. The Empress intends to foster a struggle between the 5th prince and the consort Shu's mother and son. Now that the succession is settled, the Crown Prince's foundation is unstable, and the consort Shu's mother and son urgently need a large amount of gold and silver to expand their network and handle matters. The responsibility of raising money has fallen upon the Wu family. Recently, 3 to 5 casinos and brothels have opened in the capital, all of which are Wu family properties. It seems they are really short of money. I suppressed my anger. Who is in charge of the kidnapping business? The Crown Prince's maternal uncle, the sole son of the Wu family, Wu Tingfeng, the sole son. Very good, such a wicked sole son. I will clean the house for the Wu family. I am a county princess personally enfeoffed by His Majesty, and due to my born phoenix destiny, I was specially permitted to raise 1,000 private soldiers. That night I mustered 500 soldiers, taking Xinger with me, and raided Wu Tingfeng's trading den dozens of miles away, catching him red-handed, iron cages, 13 of them, covered in thorns, each holding 4 or 5 women, dilapidated and lifeless. Zhou Haiyan, I could even hear my own voice trembling. She was drugged and didn't even have the strength to look up. Only the occasional rolling of her eyeballs indicated she was still alive. In front of these scum, even she had no power to protect herself, let alone those ordinary women. This commoner begs the county princess not to reveal our experiences. What happened to us? Wu Tingfeng also recovered from his shock and panic. County princess, we can discuss this. If you also fancy this batch of goods, I won't fight you for it. Ah, I drew Xinger's saber and plunged it straight through his thigh. They are not goods. With every word I spoke, the blade turned an inch deeper in his flesh. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Spare me, county princess. Just pretend this never happened. You don't want to spread it and force them to die, do you? Begged the county princess to give us a way out. The panic in Wu Tingfeng's eyes gradually dissipated, and the twitching corners of his mouth spread into a triumphant smile. Princess Hahua, don't meddle in other people's business. I am the maternal uncle of the current crown prince. We will all be family in the future. In this kind of matter, if the people don't report it, the officials won't investigate. You can't do anything to me. Hee hee. Their pleas and cries were unending. I lamented their misfortune but was even more angry at their lack of fight. The so-called womanly conduct, chastity, and virtue, those are all shackles on women. Being hurt is not our fault, and it is not we who should be ashamed to death. We should not obediently put our heads into it. We must rise up and resist, and set these shackles and bonds ablaze. The room was silent. I said calmly, now, who is willing to join me in handing over this group of scum to the authorities? The girls who met my gaze all shrank back. Looking at them, Xinger felt both heartbroken and disappointed. I am willing. A hand tremblingly raised from behind the crowd. Xinger quickly helped her to me. I had seen her look when she was jealous and competitive, and I had also seen her foolish and cute side, but at this moment, I saw her courage and strength. Are you ready, Zhou Haiyan? Yes, I am ready, she said, her dry lips quivering. The movements of Wu Tingfeng were reported back to the Wu manor in the capital overnight. They knew that with my interference, this matter would not end well. Rongyu's maternal grandfather, without delay, presented the Shu Fei token to the palace. When I entered the city with my men, the sky was already dimly lit. Rongyu waited at the city gate with his men, his outer robe subtly damp. Hahua, don't be impulsive. Let's talk properly. I pulled back on the reins and glanced at him indifferently. I'll only ask you one question. Are you aware of Wu Tingfeng's actions? He was silent for a moment, as if remembering something, and repeatedly explained. It was only after my maternal grandfather entered the palace that I found out. I didn't know before. If I had known, I would never have let him act like this. Since you already know, you still tried to stop me, because in your heart, the lives of these 52 women are simply not as important as the life of your uncle, even if he is a scumbag and a degenerate. He moved his lips, his words weak and pale. He is my uncle after all. I was not surprised. You are indeed not suited for that position. Upon hearing this, Rongyu seemed like a cat that had suddenly puffed up its fur. I'm not suited. Then who is? Rong Chong, who crawled out of A's belly. Inhahua, you really have fallen in love with him. Zhou Haiyan behind me spoke blankly. I actually liked someone like this. I shook my head, not wanting to say more to him. Move aside. I won't. Inhahua, I command you to release my uncle, or you'll never be able to sit on the Empress's throne. He started talking nonsense again. Normally, this would be enough to make me laugh out loud, but tonight, I really didn't have the heart to laugh. Rongyu, you should know me. Even if you block me here, I'll find a way to get the message to His Majesty. He frowned. Hahua, must it be like this between us? I just want justice. Perhaps the lives of women are as cheap as mayflies and ants to you, but to me, they are me, and I am them. Just seeing their suffering is as painful to me as being attacked with knives and axes. These feelings, you will never understand. Suddenly, one of the girls in the carriage behind me choked out a sound. Princess, I've made up my mind. I want to go with you to the Yamen. I want to go too. Princess, we'll all go with you. As my vision blurred, Rongyu moved aside from the city gate. He shook his head. It's useless. Xing'er took them and the private soldiers to beat the drum at the Yamen, while I changed into palace attire and immediately entered the palace. I had a smooth passage all the way, only to be stopped by Consort Shu in front of His Majesty's sleeping quarters. His Majesty is gravely ill, and I must urgently summon imperial physicians for consultation. Princess Hahua, why don't you rest in my palace for now? Without waiting for my response, two burly, stout punishment governesses escorted me to Biyun Palace, patrolling imperial guards, 8 to a team, changed every quarter hour, their iron armor cold and stern, in full readiness. The eunuchs and palace maids who usually bustled along the palace paths were nowhere to be seen. So this was what Rongyu meant by useless. It was not until dusk settled in, Consort Shu finally appeared, outside the palace. Apart from the clashing of armor, there was no other sound. Pulling the rug out from under the pot. A clever move, your ladyship. As long as His Majesty was alive, Wu Tingfeng could never escape legal retribution. The most direct method was to have the throne occupied by someone else. She smiled faintly, sitting at the head seat. Princess, what are you saying? I don't understand. To save your beastly brother, you even dare to lay hands on His Majesty, imprisoning the Empress, controlling the consorts, sealing the palace gates. What's next? Are you going to support Rongyu to ascend the throne? Hahua, if you behave, you can still securely hold the position of Empress. If you have any wicked ideas, your life and your father's will be forfeit in this man. Eating palace. Treason is a crime punishable by extermination of 9 generations. Because of Wu Tingfeng, you mother and son have endangered the lives of the entire clan. I tapped my forehead. You don't have military power. Let me guess. Who helped you? The leader of the Imperial Guards, Feng Lang, or the commander of the city gate guards, Qin Yu, perhaps, both. She burst into laughter, completely tearing off her facade of virtuousness that she had maintained all along. You are indeed very clever. With you as a hostage in the palace, the Duke of Yin will certainly not dare to act rashly. As long as you father and daughter behave, I will not harm your lives after the matter is settled. Is that so? Before she could finish speaking, the teacup I was playing with in my hand suddenly shattered. A troop of Moyun army soldiers rushed out from the inner hall, and several blades were instantly placed at Consort Shu's neck. Her expression shifted from shock to a frantic confusion. Why, you are about to become the Empress. I will naturally be the Empress, but I will choose the Emperor myself. A family of idiots, still thinking of achieving something. Little do they know that this step was all pushed by me from the shadows. In the sleeping quarters, Rong Chong had already removed the poison for His Majesty with Li Xiaoxiao. However, his body was ultimately injured. He waved away the eunuchs and palace maids, leaving only me behind. When I was young, my fate was rough. I projected myself onto my sons, protected them everywhere, putting almost all my heart and soul into them and their mother. In the end, I almost died at their hands. I lowered my gaze and remained silent, then spoke lightly. Your Majesty, projecting yourself onto your sons and showing such clear love for them is not wrong. However, your Majesty chose the wrong person. The child who truly shared your circumstances and encounters was not Rongyu. He had his birth mother planning for him and his maternal grandfather assisting him. The child who truly had nothing and struggled to survive was your 5th son, Rongchang lost his mother at 5, and before the age of 10, he had never eaten a full meal. At 13, he joined the army and was dragged behind a horse by the Turks. Yet he refused to allow the army to retreat 100 miles of territory. While the empress and consort Shu fought, he walked on thin ice for years. Unable to sleep soundly at night, he hid his talents and sharpened his edge. Despite having a mind full of statecraft, he dared not utter a single word. He froze for a moment. The emperor, lying on his dragon bed, suddenly burst into tears. His voice seemed to have aged 10 years all at once. "Take what you want from behind the plaque." I took out the scroll, turned, and stepped out the door. Hua, Rongchang, clad in silver armor, stained with crimson blood, he ran towards me, and just as he was about to embrace me, he paused. I didn't care about the bloodstains on him, and reached out to put my arm around his neck. "Rongchang, I've always chosen you." "Why me?" He hugged me back tightly. "Because you, as a man, understand the hardships of women." The big hand he had around my waist tightened. "Do you know why I'm so insistent on having this imperial throne?" Before I could answer, he spoke again, with 3 parts grievance and 3 parts resentment. "I don't want this imperial throne to be emperor, only because you will be empress. What I want to do is be your husband. Ever since you saved me with an arrow when I was 13, I've thought day and night about standing by your side, about being your husband, whether it's emperor or a commoner, I don't care. I just want you to love me." I was completely shocked. "So, there really are love-struck fools in this world, just like Mom said."